All right, world history. Here we are. We are going to pick up post World War One in preparation for World War Two. Now, we just got done with our unit on totalitarianism, and we will come across a new type of government called fascism. And fascists are a type of totalitarians, just like Stalin was a communist and he was a totalitarian. Okay. So what we need to do is go back and we need to look at the decade in between World War One and World War Two, which is the 20s. Okay, World War Two will start in 1939. So we'll look at the 20s and then into the early 30s and see how the war started. Okay, first of all, the horrors of World War One shattered the belief that progress would continue and reason would prevail. Okay, people kind of lost hope after World War One. It was a major deal. People started questioning traditional beliefs. It was a very chaotic period, a lot of change, okay, because of the war. And then during the 20s, technology, transportation, communication takes these huge leaps with the radio and airplane and things like that. Women were demanding more rights. Okay, so the 20s is going to be a very chaotic period with because it's post World War and all the new developments. The 20s for the U.S. Bring a lot of dollars. Okay, we become extremely wealthy, while on the contrary, the rest of the world lay in ruins. Okay, the rest of the world is ruined because of World War One. The United States makes out well because we never fought any of the war on our soil. Okay, so that's going to come into it. Um, every country was bankrupt. The United States, Japan were stronger economically after the war, and that's why we're going to loan money to Europe. Okay, Europe, we mentioned that four empires had fallen. Okay, the Russian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian, the Ottoman, and the German Empire, and a lot of countries. There were several new countries developed. They're going to have their first experiments with democracy. Let's not forget that most of them had been monarchies of some type, right? A czar or a kaiser or a king. And so um, the key connection here is that their first experiments with democracy do not bring good experiences. It was not democracy's fault, it was the other extenuating circumstances. Let's see here. Reason I mention this is because eventually voters are going to be willing to sacrifice their democracy, sacrifice their freedoms for a strong authoritarian. Okay, and that's where we enter with fascism. We'll get to that in a second. Right? We already know because we just got done studying that Russia itself, out with the czar, and in with the communists, right? They develop a communist dictatorship. After Lenin, Stalin takes over. Um, we're going to see a major worldwide depression. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Let me go back here. Uh, so Germany is defeated, and a new democratic government is set up. It's called the Weimar Republic. It had several weaknesses, which you can see here. Again, the lack of democratic tradition is not going to help out. So Germany lay ruined. It needs money, just like many of the other countries of Europe. Immediately after the war, it has severe inflation. Here's an example. In 1918, a loaf of bread costs less than 1 mark. A mark is like their dollar. By 1922, a loaf of bread cost 160 marks. By 1923, 200 billion marks for a loaf of bread. That's called hyperinflation, where the price of goods rises faster. As you can see here, these kids, these are blocks of money. The money became worth nothing. They could play with it. You couldn't buy anything with it. This lady is burning money as fuel in her stove because it was literally worthless. So we needed a way to rebuild Germany's economy, and that's where the Dawes Plan comes in. This is the Dawes Plan. It's basically a triangle here where the United States has the money. We loaned money to Germany so that Germany could rebuild its industry. Germany could rebuild factories and mines and all sorts of things, right? Well, let's not forget that Germany had owed reparations to Great Britain and France as part of the Treaty of Versailles. They owed them $33 billion. So, in effect, what happens is the United States loans money to Germany. Germany then pays the Allies back, Great Britain and France, and then Great Britain and France take that money and pay back the loans, the money they had borrowed from us. So it was a big circle of money. Um, Now this is going to come into play when the Depression strikes. Okay, let me get into that right here. In the 1920s, I told you it was very successful for the United States. In the US, we called it the Roaring Twenties. A lot of money was made, a lot of people became wealthy, but there were some underlying fundamental weaknesses to the American economy. We'll talk about this more next year in US, but there was an uneven distribution of wealth. There was overproduction by business. That means they produced more than they could sell. And then Americans began buying less because, I mean, once you've got one car, I mean, how many more do you need? One refrigerator, how many more do you need, etc. And then in 1929, we have the stock market crash. The stock market crashes, and that is basically the beginning of the Great Depression in the United States. Okay, well, going back to the Dawes Plan, we can see that the United States was heavily responsible for Germany's success and Great Britain and France's success because we were the only one with money, right? So when the Great Depression strikes the United States, we say, oh, you know what? No more money for Europe. Europe gets no more of our money. And therefore, those countries also collapse. So basically, the US Great Depression turns into a worldwide depression. World trade drops by 65%. Unemployment, that means no job, goes skyrockets. Banks collapse. Businesses, industries collapse. When industries collapse, people lose their jobs. When they lose their jobs, they have no money to put into the economy, which causes further loss of jobs, loss of homes. You can see here that 1 out of 4 Americans had no job. Then I go back to this graph right here, and you guys can take a look at uh, uh, European countries. So 1933 is the worst year of the Depression for the US or for Europe. And you can see up here these high rates of unemployment. Okay, so these countries that had fragile democracies, first time with a democracy, and now all of a sudden they get depression. So in their minds, they associate depression, high unemployment, not a no job, no food, no home. They associate it with democracy. All right. And so some countries are going to give up on democracy and they are going to want a strong leader to take over. They're going to want an authoritarian, right? When you're eating out of a garbage can, you're homeless, you've got no job, the price of goods is skyrocketing. They just want someone to solve their problems. And that's where the rise of fascism comes in. Fascism is a new type of government, okay? And it will be totalitarian. So I want you to think about the big five, all right? During the worldwide depression, millions of Europeans began to lose faith in democracy. They turned to an extreme form of government called fascism. Now, here is fascism in a nutshell. First of all, there was no Karl Marx that wrote a book on it. It just developed. Okay, no clearly defined theory. It was extremely militaristic. That's why you will always see Mussolini, Francisco Franco, Hitler. You'll always see these guys in uniforms, lots of flags. You'll have salutes. You'll have insignias. It was an extreme form of nationalism. Don't forget, that's loyalty to one's country. The country always came first. They believed that nations must struggle, and if you are too peaceful, if you're not willing to stand up and take what is yours, you will be doomed to be conquered. Okay, it was strong survive. You had to pledge loyalty or obedience to an authoritarian leader. Okay, you go, hey, fascism sounds a lot like communism. All right, well, here are the similarities and here are the differences. They both use dictators. They both denied rights to their people. The state was always number one, and it was definitely not democratic. It was the opposite. Okay, some of the big differences. Fascists were not out for a classless society like communism. They still believed in private property. Okay, they weren't trying to make everybody economically equal. Fascists were nationalists. Their own country was their number one priority. Communists wanted to unite workers around the world and have communism spread. Okay, so Mussolini, I'm not going to read all these to you. I'll let you look at them. But Mussolini, what I do need you to know is he came to power in the early 20s, right when the conditions were really bad for Italy. Mussolini took power legally. I need you to know that. And he's going to use the big five, what we just talked about. You can look through here for examples, and it's in your reading. Okay. Mussolini took power legally. He's a totalitarian fascist, uses the big five. Hitler is also a fascist, a totalitarian. Hitler also came to power legally. All right. Now, Hitler does not come to power until a decade after Mussolini. So Mussolini's been in power for 10 years. Those two are going to link up later on. You are probably familiar that Hitler wrote a book with his beliefs called Mein Kampf. I'll let you look at the quote here. Okay, but Hitler also uses the big five. Here's his brown shirts, the thugs that he uses. Big thing you need to know here: Hitler also took power legally, and then consolidated it and wrote himself in as a dictator. Hitler uses the big five. Okay, couple things they got in common. You can look through here as examples of the big five. He's got himself his black shirts that he uses. And then, so here's a list of a few of the countries where they revert back to authoritarians. They want someone strong to solve their problems. Okay, democracy survives in those countries, and we'll pick up at a later date with the aggressiveness of these countries.